Hello everyone and welcome to Heart and Hand. Now it's International Week, which of course means that there's no proper football for us to discuss with Rangers in this sort of temporary hiatus. So what we tend to do during International Weeks, because we don't want to leave you without content just because there's no football, I mean that would make it even worse. So what we tend to do is ask our listeners for questions and then sit and answer them. And because we got so many this time, joining me, my name is David Edgar of course, joining me is one of our regular podders, the wonderful Mr. Alex Staff.
Hi there, David. How are you feeling today?
I'm ready for this inquisition, Alex. Are you ready to just put it all on the line?
Absolutely, always. Every time I step up to the touchline for Heart and Hand, that's my attitude.
Well, that's it exactly. It takes a certain type to be able to play for Heart and Hand. And yes, we did ask, as I say, our listeners on Patreon. If you're not one of them yet, why not? And we'll come to that later. But we asked them to send us in some questions, and as always, they responded magnificently. So let's get things started. First up comes from John A. Kennedy, who quite cleverly puts the A in there, I think, Alex, to avoid us thinking that it's the bravest man in world sport.
Yes.
Celtic's defensive coach, I mean, that's a fabulous job, isn't it? That's like safety coordinator on the Titanic, that one. But
something along those lines, yeah. There's really not much to do there.
No. Job for,
so it's not a bad wage he's got.
No, a job for life, I think. John asks, what will it take to get a resolution to the BBC farce? It's obviously been noted down south with Dan Walker tweeting about it, so can we expect anything to change soon? Well, the rumour, and it is just that at this point, is that this has been something which has been noted and discussed at national level by the BBC, and they have told BBC Scotland, now as I say, I stress this is just rumours, they've told BBC Scotland that they want this resolved, and they want it resolved by the end of the year. In the interim, they are supporting the BBC Scotland, the rest of the national organisation are supporting them, but they want it resolved. That is the latest rumour. If Stevie G is being interviewed on the BBC in January, then that rumour will be true. If it's not, then you'll know what happened. In terms of what I think it will take to happen, it's quite simple. It's for the BBC to take up the tickets which they are allowed in the press box. The BBC are not banned. Chris McLaughlin cannot attend. It's that simple. And Rangers cannot and should not give in on that point, because there is a difference between we don't like what you're reporting and reporting stuff that is grossly inaccurate and slanted and offensive, and that's what Chris McLaughlin did. And Rangers did raise this point with the BBC on several occasions, where they would point out examples of his reporting that they felt were unfair. Quite often the BBC would concede that they agreed with this, and then it would continue. So after a while, Rangers just simply went, well, look, this guy comes in, tells lies about us, insults us, we're not gonna let him in. You can send anybody else, but he can't come. I back Rangers on this one. The press, Alex, get very squealy about this, and I get it, because you can take it to extremes, and you just need to look at the current situation in America, for example. There's a difference between straight away just instantly saying everything that all the press write is wrong and lies and terrible, and saying, we have a problem with this guy, can we try and work it out? And then when it doesn't get worked out, to eventually say, actually, no, we're not going to grant him the privilege, which is what a press pass is, the privilege of access to our club. And people get very absolutist about it. They say, no, you either support freedom of the press or you're a Nazi and you're totally for bans. And it's not bans. He's perfectly entitled to go and see Rangers elsewhere. Rangers just don't want to deal with the guy, and I don't think that's unreasonable.
Not at all, no. There seems to be an attitude among the press and the UK in general, and it's not just a Scottish thing, that they have some sort of right to access to people, that they have some sort of divine right to, I think it was Tom English recently who was criticising Lindsay Sharp after she didn't do as well as she could have in a race, and she blanked the media afterwards, and he was quite critical of her, saying that others have done this and she should have been available for media duties. No, that's not, the word duties there is fucking wrong. Like that's the problem right there. You've no divine right to shove a microphone in an athlete's face after a race, a match, whatever it might be, and expect to get, some sort of free answers out of it. And what you say and do has to have some sort of consequences, no matter what your role is. So, you can't. Anybody of a reasonable mind has to back a club on this one. The press who don't do so are really just feeding some. We know who they're aiming that story at, don't we? And it's all a bit. To be honest, the BBC reaction to it is a little bit childish now. It's starting to look a bit, just stupid. Like they've dug in and they know it's a bit daft, but they can't.
Yeah,
they're really desperate not to be seen to be conceding. And Rangers' position on this was justifiable. It wasn't entirely over the top. We didn't ban all the BBC. We said that one person's press credentials were rescinded. It's really not that bad, that big a deal, really. And it was more than justifiable, as I say. And I don't quite understand why an organisation like the BBC can't just move on. Put it this way, if they just moved on from that, there's every chance he's back in by now.
Yeah,
but
more than likely.
The reaction that they had has meant that Rangers are going to say, no, well, we can't let him back in now, the position you put us in. So I think it will be resolved, personally, though. I don't know what your thoughts are.
No, it will be, yeah, it will be
resolved.
The people with sway at the BBC want it resolved, and a little local difficulty will not be allowed, because at the end of the day, the BBC is a large organisation. The producers in the northeast of England, where Stevie G is a god, want to interview him about Rangers, and they don't care that Chris McLaughlin feels a wee bit upset that he's not allowed to go in and make up shite about Rangers anymore. So yeah, it'll get sorted, absolutely. But it's just a question of when. But something will be negotiated, I would say. Next up, Fraser Kernahan. Are any of you guys worried that the European games might detract from our performances in the league? We've already seen more than a few examples of tired players and the effect that has on our ability to close out games. Alex, it would be... I think it would be a little naive to suggest that it won't. Extra matches are, of course, going to affect fitness. There's just no way that they can't. It's going to mean that we need good squad management in the next couple of months. And then, in my opinion, it's going to need that we're going to need an influx of new blood in January, even just for that freshness.
Potentially, yeah. I think we've got a strong squad now. And by that I mean, if we make 4, 5, 6 changes, I don't think you'll see a huge drop off in the quality on the pitch, which is, that's a situation we've not been in a long time. I think it depends upon your focus here, doesn't it? Every Rangers fan wants to win this league, of course we do, and the league is always, that's the win, isn't it? The phrase, that's your bread and butter, etc, etc. This European campaign is more than a bonus, though. This is something that short term, medium term, long term is going to be massively beneficial. So yeah, if it means slightly less of a performance in the league this season, but we're a lot better going into the next 4 or 5 seasons, maybe we can swallow that. It would be nice to think that, once the strip starts selling and other things get sorted, that we'll have some money in January for players. Never an easy time to sign anybody, as we know, though. Prices tend to ramp up. So
it doesn't have to be permanent, though. I mean, I think you can go into the loan market in January. And
yeah,
again,
there is that, yeah.
For me, I think I don't think we'll need 6 or 7 new signings, I don't mean that, but just a couple of bodies to come in that you can say, right, okay, on match day he can go in, and that means I can rest player X or player Y. Yeah. But it's a problem I'd want to have, and financially it's a huge thing for us. It has put our financial plan 2 years ahead easily because of the money that we'll get from the Europa League. It's that simple. And while in the short term, i.e. this season, it might have a negative effect on a title challenge, in terms of Rangers' next kind of 1 to 5 years, it's huge. It's nothing but good. So, as I say, it's a problem I would want and one I'd welcome, and I would suspect the manager would say exactly the same as well. We're playing Villarreal a week on Thursday in the Europa League, and that is a problem I want. As simple as that.
Exactly. We've also been a bit lucky with the way the fixtures are falling as well. a lot of home games after the Europa games. So not trips away. I mean, if we get through in the Cup, we get a rearranged game so that we don't have to travel away to Easter Road after an away match, for example. So that, you know, that those sort of things, we've kind of had a bit of luck there as well. So I think our squad's good enough to drag themselves through some home matches against some of the teams that we're facing, you know, in the games after the Europa League games. Yes, this is the problem that we want. Definitely, I would much rather this. We might not have won the league anyway, even without it. So I'd much rather this and not win the league than not win the league and not have this, you know.
Exactly. No, totally. Fraser Cairns, what is your opinion on a possible move from Hampden to Murrayfield? Of course, there may be an announcement by the time you record. Well, there hasn't been by the time we record. Look, I'm going to give a real politician's answer here. I can see the case for both sides. Hampden's not a great place to watch football. If anyone has been stuck behind the goals, you'll know exactly what I mean. The atmosphere's garbage. It looks shit. I mean, let's not get away from it. For a showpiece stadium, it looks awful. Murrayfield's a good place to watch football. Anyone who's been there will tell you that. But from a selfish point of view, it's in Edinburgh, and I live in very much on the west coast, so Hampden's a lot easier for me. There's also something about Hampden, its name, its history, that I would be reluctant to just totally throw away very quickly. But those who say Hampden's a bit of a shithole and Murrayfield is better, I do find that a difficult argument to just come out and say, well, actually, no, that's not true, because it clearly is true.
It is, and that, if your argument's based purely on that, as you say, there's nothing you can counter that with. Even concerns about, and this is a valid concern. I can imagine fans of some clubs would moan about this, but it's been the last few seasons that it's happened. Well, you know, we're meeting that lot at Hampden in a semi-final or a final, and you know that's happened now 3 seasons in a row, more than once. And a couple of the seasons, so that's, you know, it's a legitimate concern of having 60-odd thousand, 70,000 Rangers and Celtic fans descended upon Murrayfield, coming from all over the place, much harder to police than it would be at Hampden. You know, that's a legitimate one. I'm with you in this one, David. Though I don't think you can talk about football in such cold terms all the time, and tradition, the history of Hampden, the fact that if you took the Scotland games away from Hampden, if you took the Cup semi-finals and finals away from Hampden, there's a pretty good chance Queen's Park as a club will die, and I wouldn't like that either. I wouldn't like to see that. It's a weird thing. I've no real love for them, but I would feel a bit of a bit like a real part of football in history, wouldn't it? In my lifetime, just going, and I wouldn't want to see that. So,
they're like Radio 3. I've never used it, but I want it to be there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a bit like that. Yeah, I know that sounds daft, but it's just, you know, I suppose sentimentalist in me almost. But yeah, I'm with you. When this subject first came, you know, it's been kicking around for years. Let's be honest. But when it first became a real, a real discussion, I had a little kind of debate via article on one of the websites at the time, and yeah, that was the angle I came from a more emotional aspect, and just to have something that isn't, because the fact is that if we take it away from Hampden, there's a suggestion it will just go to Murrayfield. It won't. Things will start to go to Celtic Park. Some of it will come to Ibrox, and that starts to breed a bit of resentment, a bit of division, ideas of favouritism, all that sort of stuff. And Hampden sort of avoids all of that as well at a time when Scottish football doesn't need any more of that. Yeah, it's a shit stadium. I wish they could, you know, redevelop it again. That's not going to happen. They made an arse of it when they done it up.
They did.
But they made a complete arse of it, let's be honest.
It was when you looked at, a few years later, when you looked at Cardiff and then you looked at Murrayfield and you thought, it's not that hard, lads. I mean, look. No. And it's not even that it's okay, they spent a bit more and they got a slightly better stadium. It's like, shit, look at that, you know?
Aye. That was how much money they spent on it as well, and it wasn't. I think the worst part is, you know, there's some countries you go to, and every stadium's kind of get that sort of feel. You know, fans are miles away from the pitch and all that sort of stuff. So you can sort of understand when the rest of them follow that pattern. But we've got multiple examples in this country of how to do it right, and they still managed to go and do that. So, I wish they could redevelop it, fix it that way. I don't see that happening. But even with all its flaws, I think I would rather we kept that than move it to Murrayfield, or even if a compromise, maybe start moving the games around. That fucking friendly on Friday night should never have been at Hampden.
No, agreed.
That was a complete waste of time playing it there.
Yes,
to be really honest.
In all seriousness, given the attendance, that they would have been far better taking that to an Easter Road or even Rugby Park, selling it out, and having a much better atmosphere. Also, you give the local. I've always liked that. Spain have done that for years, where they take fixtures round the country. And if you ever back when Spain had crucial qualifying ties, it's been a long time. It was always in Seville, because the fans there were nuts, and it was such a weapon for them that if you were going to play Spain in a match that really mattered, then you wouldn't be playing them in their nice, sedate, big stadium. You'd be playing them at this really tight ground where the people were fanatical, and I always liked that. I thought it was quite a clever idea. Ross Monroe says, who's the biggest lightweight of the group? Technically me now, I suppose, because I don't drink. So I suppose it would be me in that I never drink. But in terms of handling their booze, David Marshall cannot drink and shouldn't, I think, Alex.
No, I was actually thinking it's a rather apt question. But probably. There's a bit of a term, isn't it, when you say lightweight, people say, oh, they're done after 3 pints or whatever. I think it's slightly different from that. Scott's not much of a drinker, is he?
No, Scott gets drunk after four drinks, but I'll always say it, he stops after 5.
Yeah.
That's the thing, always.
Yeah.
Scott, once he starts to feel pretty drunk, will wrap it. He's got the healthiest relationship with alcohol of any human I've ever met. My problem is I was quite tipsy after 2 or 3 pints, but I could drink until, I could drink for another day and a half and stay at the same level. That was my problem. It wasn't that I couldn't drink, it was that I could. So I would agree with that. I think I would say Marshall, and if he's,
he might be able to pile more into himself, but that doesn't make him a better drinker.
No. Makes you a far worse one, and I speak from personal experience. Stevie MG94 asks, sorry to ask again, lads, but the matchday experience, how can it be improved, i.e. food, music, entertainment, pre and half time? Well, the food I'll start with, Alex, because I genuinely think that Rangers are on the cusp of pricing the food because of the quality of it out of being a big profit centre for them. It's really expensive now for what you get, to the point now that I know a lot, this is anecdotal, but I know a lot of Rangers fans, and a lot of them tell me they wouldn't even dream of buying something in Ibrox. They'll buy it outside, they'll eat at home, they'll eat afterwards. But it's now, they're saying, nah, it's just far too expensive for what you get, and they just cannot, in good conscience. And these are people that want to buy from the club, but the food quality is awful. I mean, it really is piss poor. And then they're charging you a pretty decent amount of money for what you're getting now. And I do think that they are right on the line of people saying, nah, I'm not bothering with that. I don't know what your thoughts would be.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. Yeah. The numbers seem to be fewer and fewer of people who are getting up 10 minutes before half time to go and join the queue and all that. You hardly need to do that anymore. The pricing's horrendous, I think. The food's a bit of a difficult one for events, because that's the thing that we forget, is that it's still a huge event, a whole match every time, regardless of who it's against or such like. They're practically selling out every home game now, which makes it very difficult to cater for so many people, doesn't it? The quality of the food needs to improve, I think. The range, what's available, certainly needs to improve. I don't use it that often at Ibrox, if I'm honest. But me and my boy, I have no problem. My boy's 17 now, so it's not like I've got to feed the kid halfway through because he's bored at his school or whatever.
Thankfully,
so
it costs you a bloody fortune.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've spent enough on Rangers this past couple of months.
Exactly. Well, this is the thing. I mean, I took my nephew to a game, the friendly against Wigan. Took him to a game because I try to take him whenever I can, especially with tickets being so scarce at the moment. And what do you want to eat? We got it. It was expensive, but not being really don't mean to be. I can afford it, so it's okay for me. But I do feel for people who maybe struggle a wee bit. But got him the food and he didn't eat it because it was rotten. And I thought, well, that's him put off it for life. And he told everyone when he came home, oh, it was brilliant, but the food, that was something that he brought up. And you can see how spoilt wee bastard we used to eat that shite. And you're right, but it is something that needs looked at. And I know that this is maybe a daft comparison, but I don't see why it can't be done. I've been to American grounds where it's all franchised and the food is superb. I've been to events at the Hydro where the food is a lot better. Again, it's expensive, but it's at least nice. And I've been to events, football matches in England where the food is a lot better. So it can be done. That's the thing. I don't buy, well, this is, what do you want us to do? I want you to do it better, and I think it's doable. Before, halftime entertainment, this is a tough one because, look, nobody goes to the game to see fireworks before it and, dancing and all the rest of it. It's a tough one because, I'll be honest, before the game, I tend to just go in and, get in just before it, have a read of my programme, and at half-time I use to go for a pee. So I'm not that bothered about it. But in terms of cranking it up a little, you do look again at England, they've got some great stuff for it. But that's at a cost. And is that priority for us just now? I don't know.
No, it's probably not. Half-time entertainment, as you say, it's a difficult one because a lot of people... Hell, you can get nigh on club legends coming out to do the draw and they get a smattering of applause because most people aren't even listening anymore. So as you say, that's a difficult one. I'd be inclined to use that time personally to try and ramp up interest in other areas, and I don't mean your spot the ball adverts or things like that, but maybe a bit better profiling of our youth teams, for example, or something like that. Try and build... Because, right now, this is the best we felt as fans towards our team in terms of, an identity. We can see an identity in them now that we feel as though we want to see. And maybe just ramping up some of that feeling, with other elements outside the first team would maybe be something worth trying. If you knew you were going to the game and there was going to be highlights of the development team's match on the screen, because not everybody bothers with Rangers TV. Or things like that, or a profile about some promising under-17 that we've been hearing about for weeks, or whatever it might be. I'd maybe use it for that, but in honesty, I don't know. I can't think of anything. Hell, with the cheerleaders for a while, if you remember, and most people couldn't even be bothered with that. And if you can't appeal to a ground of thousands and upon thousands of pervy football fans with cheerleaders, I really don't know what else you can do.
Let us do it.
Do you know what? That was a great idea, actually. Yeah.
Let us do it.
Give us a half-time rundown.
Give us the microphones and we'll do it every week. A short Heart and Hand half-time podcast. We would crowdfund for the legal fees, and I think we'd be okay.
Yes. Well, you can crowdfund for anything these days.
Exactly. You can crowdfund for legal fees, and even if it's totally inappropriate, so why not? Mark Craig, he says, opinions on Umar Sadiq, will he cut it at Rangers? To me, a return to Roma in January is on the card. Well, look, standard answer, it's too early to say at the moment, and you would hope that once he settles, because it can take players time to settle, he's a very young man, that we'll begin to see what it was that prompted the decision to sign him. So it's too early yet to write him off. Hopefully, though, he'll start to make an impact soon, because he is on loan, and at the end of the day, with loan players, you need them to hit the ground running. Now that Kyle Lafferty's there, though, it does appear to shove him down the pecking order. So who knows? We're going to have a lot of games, and what I would say is, if by the end of September going into October we've hardly seen him, then I think it's time to maybe begin to think, well, does the manager fancy him now he's had a look at him? But at the moment, I'm going to jump onto that fence, get splinters in my arse and say it's still too early to tell.
Yeah, that's as you say, the kind of the obvious and correct answer. But I think there's been plenty of discussions on this. I would take it slightly wider. Two things. Firstly, it doesn't really matter if he does settle or not, because he's been one of 15 signings, and the vast majority have settled. Is it 15 or 16 now? Actually, does Macaulay make it 16? I can't even.
I think
remember.
He's the 14th.
Yeah, so if he's the only one that doesn't really do what he was brought in to do, then that's an outstanding return, and that's beyond any sort of expectations that managers would have if they had to sign that amount of players. And there's a second thing that I think may be quite useful to us, and possibly I'm stretching things a bit here. Steven Gerrard's a new manager. He's worked with youngsters before as youth coach at Liverpool. He hasn't done it at first team level, where he's had someone that he's brought in with certain expectations and they've not met them. This is his first experience of it. He needs to learn how to manage that. He needs to learn how to deal with that. It's something that I'm sure that managers would talk about, and how they've managed to do that over the years. Did he just move the guy on quickly? Did he try and let him settle for longer? Umar Sadiq has said himself in an interview he struggled to adapt to the style of football here. Even in training, he's found it difficult. He feels as though he's starting to adapt now, but he's here for games, and if he isn't getting games, he'll probably return to Roma in January. He said that himself.
Which makes sense.
If that's the way it goes.
Yeah, which makes sense. And if that's the case, he goes, someone else comes in. As Alex says,
exactly.
You make a lot of signings, some aren't going to work out. He might well be one of them. And if that's the case, that's okay. It can happen. We never have had, and we never will have, a 100% success rate on signings. If it's a loan that doesn't work out, that's okay. Send him on his way, get someone else in.
I think it's also worth pointing out that sometimes you sign a player and you get something more out of someone you've already had.
Of course,
the minute he walked in, Morelos started playing a bit better. So for all we know, Morelos has thought, well, I've got a genuine threat here, I better step it up. And if that's what we've got out of him, then great. That works for me as well.
Yep, totally. Declan Cairn says, you've sold out the Ibrox suite. How long until there's 50,000 strong watching a live show? Declan, we've sold out the Ibrox suite twice for 2 nights, September the 28th and October the 5th, Heart and Hand live at Ibrox. 2 nights. Thank you to everyone who purchased a ticket. We really are grateful. Seriously though, with Ryan Jack being booed by a crowd at Hampden as well as Pittodrie, should we genuinely consider not allowing our players to be called up to the Scotland squad if this is how they're going to be treated? No, because players want to play international football and they should be given the opportunity to do so. So no, it should never ever be a club policy. You might find that some players just think, I don't want to do it, what's the point? That I can understand, but they should always be given the option to do so. The booing isn't everyone, because there's a lot of Bears in the Rangers support, but there is, it's not just a football thing, it's a political thing. It's Scotland as a society, they're quite divided at the moment, and there are people who use us as a symbol of everything they don't like, and they use us as a symbol of unionism, and they use us as basically the antithesis of everything they are. And then they talk about one of the things that they're so proud of Scotland and their nationalism is their inclusiveness, and yet they're excluding quite a lot of people straight away because we disagree with them politically. And I think that there's a dissonance right at the heart of their argument. But yeah, look, it's not for me. I don't follow international football, I don't follow Scotland. Things like that piss me off when I hear it. It's been a long time since I felt included in the national team, but I do understand there's a lot of Bears who were there long before these people arrived on the scene, and Scotland is their nation and they're not giving it up, and that's entirely valid as well. So I think it's just down to the individual on how you view it, and the individual player as well. That would be my take, Alex.
I think it's down to the individual player. I come in this slightly biased, and I'll admit that, because I'm still a Scotland fan. I haven't been able to switch that off. I'm not judging anyone either way. It's your choice, and my choice. It's just been one of those things where I've tried. I understand the reasons behind Rangers fans not liking the current Scotland setup. I get it. I've tried, but when they're playing, I still want to see them do well. It's just that. That's the way it is. That's just the way I am. So I'm still a bit of a Scotland fan. I'll tell you what, I don't think, as we're recording this, and many of you maybe be listening to it while the game's on, I don't think Alan McGregor will get booed. against Albania. I was out on Saturday night for a mixed crowd in terms of there was a couple of Celtic fans there, a Rangers fan, and including myself, a Partick Thistle fan, a St Mirren fan. To a man, every one of them agreed Alan McGregor is the best goalkeeper Scotland have got at the moment. Every one of them, and they, apart from me and the other Rangers fan, they all fucking hate us. So, it's things like that. I think there's all the issues that you bring up are right. I think there's a little bit of pantomime behind it as well. Boyata was getting booed on the night by the Scotland fans. So it's not as if it's just about you because he's a Rangers player. There's a little bit of pantomime behind it as well, I think. But, mostly the reasons that you mentioned earlier. Ryan Jack will want to play for Scotland. Alan McGregor will want to play for Scotland. If they didn't, they'd have pulled out of the squad. And that's ultimately what we've got to think about. We shouldn't... Put it this way, if you were starting to deny Rangers players a chance to play for Scotland, would a promising youngster really want to sign for us? A promising Scottish youngster really think that we're the club to sign for if we're going to deny them chances to improve themselves in the international stage? It's kind of wider than just the fact that we as fans, and probably the club as well, have some concerns over it. As you say, it's really got to be down to the individual player. Lee Wallace seemed to pull out at one point, didn't he? And looked as though he wasn't particularly up for it. But Ryan Jack clearly must want to be there, or he would have just pulled out the squad. It would have been a mysterious back injury, wouldn't it?
Yes,
or something like that. Alan McGregor could have done the same. So, especially by neither of them being, McGregor probably more so, but neither of them being nailed down starters. They could have easily pulled out, and McLeish wouldn't have questioned it. So yeah, as you say, ultimately down to the player, much the same as it is down to the individual if we're going to support Scotland or not.
Andrew Rundle says, who do you think will be our best player this season, and do you think we will win the league? Our best player this season will be Connor Goldson, and yes, I do. I admit I always do, so I'm maybe not the best guide in that, but yes, I do. Alex?
I've had to change this because I thought our player of the year would be Jamie Murphy, but obviously that's went tits up. Yeah. Player of the season, Goldson's a good shout. Only person I can see beating him to it, if he stays fit for the rest of the season, is Harton Hanzo and Lassana Koulibaly. Will we win the league this season? God, I hope I'm wrong about this. I don't think we will. But obviously, like yourself, David, I'm not conceding that shit until it's absolutely done.
Chris asks, what's the furthest you've ever taken your natural bias for a Rangers player against all available evidence? For example, I still firmly believe when Dorrans comes back, he'll be sitting at the top of our midfield, scoring and setting up goals for fun. But this rock-hard belief cannot really be backed up by anything he has done in recent years. Also, the inverse, I remember having to grudgingly admit Kenny Miller was quite good, eventually. Colin West... So here's one going way back. Colin West. I just loved Colin West, and I decided he was going to be brilliant. And he got injured after about 6 minutes of his Rangers career. Now, I was about 2 games in. And then only came back towards the end of the season and then was sold soon after. And I was raging because I thought he was going to be an absolute superstar for us, based on absolutely nothing at all. But that was one for me in terms of... He is going to be brilliant, and I was wrong.
I can now hear quite a few people shouting at me. I've got a few of these, most recent being Carlos Pena. But probably the one that I've been given the most stick for over the years is Velichka.
Sorry.
No, sorry, not Velichka. Sorry, I've got mixed up between my crazy shitey heart signings. Zaliukas.
No, that's worse. You don't get a laugh for that. I mean, I hated that pick. I hated him.
Convinced Zaliukas would be a good signing for us, especially at the level we were at. And then it became pretty apparent pretty quickly that he chucked it.
Yeah, he did.
He chucked it. He gave up because he had the ability, but he wasn't interested anymore. But because I'm stupid, optimist, stubborn bastard, I wasn't willing to give up on it until he was pretty much gone.
Guys that you didn't like, maybe previous to signing for whatever reason, and were unimpressed perhaps by the signing, that after a while you went, do you know what? Yeah, I get it.
Marvin Andrews.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Firmly against the Marvin Andrews signing. I thought it was a complete waste of time, and was a sign of, I was starting to have some concerns at that point about the sort of team that we were building. style of team that we were building. I loved McLeish when he first came in because he played such a cracking. I mean, he was the one that brought Lovenkrands in, and it made such a difference to how dynamic we were going forward. And I loved all that. And then he seemed to change into this kind of Martin O'Neill light sort of approach of Dado Puzzle wide left or Namucci wide left, and Kiriakos and Andrews at the back, who, in terms of try to control the ball combined, wouldn't come close to any of the defenders that we've got now. So, I was with Marvin Andrews. I was just like, I can't believe we're signing him and blah, blah. And then, not long into his Rangers career, I thought, you know what, I've got to just bite the bullet here. Yeah, he's got his limitations, but I kind of love the big guy.
Didn't dislike him as a signing because I didn't know anything about him, but I had made my mind up on Fernando Rickson. I thought he was rotten because of his terrible first season with us. And then he became, far, far better. And I actually think he was a much better midfielder than he was a fullback. I don't think he had the positional sense as a fullback, but in midfield, when he has that outstanding season when we win the league, I had to go, not grudgingly, but because I didn't dislike him, but I thought he wasn't a player at all, and I didn't rate him. I mean, I had him genuinely in the same boat as Conterman in disastrous signings, and he totally turned it round. So
I think, actually, it's interesting that you mentioned that. I think he was almost guilty by association with Conterman, wasn't he? To begin with.
And Parkhead, the 6-2 lingered for a long, long time. And the thing is that season's so bad. We've just done it on the Advocate years on Patreon, and there are so many lows. And yeah, you're right. He just got. They were seen as a double. Yeah, two disastrous signings that fucked up our defence, and they always played if they were fit because Advocate was very stubborn. But he hung on in there, and like I say, the year we won the league, 2004-2005 Helicopter Sunday year, he played with some sublime skill and dig in that midfield area for us. He had a fantastic season. In fact, was one of the players of the year. So he turned my opinion round. Andrews was another one. Yes, I was like, I can't believe we're signing him. He's just a big daddy, and he won a title and deserved to. Yeah. So fair play to him there.
Yeah, it wasn't just that. It was his attitude and that as well. I quite like that sort of thing. I think I've seen plenty of signings where the guy comes in with a bit of a reputation and you're quite excited by them, and they let you down. I don't think you see very often when we sign someone who you just think instantly, before they've even put pen to paper, you just think, what the fuck are we going for them for? Yeah. It's very rare that they turn that around in the eyes of the fans. There was many an example back in the McLeish days, actually. Iggy Oceanstad jumps straight to mind.
I remember Franny Jeffers just thinking that guy hasn't scored a goal since the early 80s, and unfortunately it wasn't that like Oceanstad was bad. The ball would come to him and it would bounce off him and he looked awkward. Jeffers just didn't do anything. You weren't aware he was on the field. It was bizarre. It was kind of like he was just always that wee second too late to where the ball had been, and he just didn't look like a footballer. Oceanstad looked like a bad footballer, and he didn't look like one at all. So
fun days. Andrews is one of the very few.
Yeah, fun times. Michael James McLeod, who do you think the best signing has been so far? Value and potential. Who do you think has performed the best? What positions do you feel will need strengthened and potential January targets? And who's got the bigger wanger between yous? Well, I don't often pay a lot of attention to the downstairs furniture of the other podders. I reckon you'd be up there. You're quite tall. Just sheer physics would dictate that you should.
You'd think that, right? Yeah. But unfortunately, it's all disappointingly average. Andy carries himself like a guy who's got a huge cock.
He does.
He?
Andy does.
He's got that quiet, assured confidence
that comes from
no
having
matter what happens, he can just whip out that monster.
What do you think of this bad boy? Like he could whip it out and it hits on the table by going boom, boom, boom.
Exactly. Right.
One of them.
He carries himself that way. So that's probably a good shout.
James definitely the smallest, I reckon.
I don't know. Like he might be
quietly packing. Possibly. Well, he's never had a woman to kind of say wow or the the opposite. So
I'm not helping his case here.
No, we don't know. We don't know. I'll get back to you on that, Michael. We've got a night out coming out soon. I'll ask them all to whip them out, and I'll compare. Best signing so far. Now, there have been a couple of ones that have shown up really well, and I think straight away Alan McGregor, obviously, has been brilliant. Katic and Goldson have been absolutely superb. Now, Goldson cost us a lot of money, $3.5 million, but in modern terms, that's fuck all, especially for a centre back. I'm a huge Goldson fan, and I think he'll be terrific. I think Kyle Lafferty at $400,000 is going to be a very important player for us. But the one I think will turn us a huge profit, and I'm not going to say Matchday yet because we haven't seen him, despite the stuff we've heard. I think we will make an awful lot of money on Borna Barisic.
If I had to think of who's going to make us the most cash, it's actually there's an argument for Barisic, although he's 25, 26 now, so a couple of years older, or a good few years older than Katic, for example, came in at the same sort of price.
Yeah, and Katic, of course, is a position that's quite valuable at the moment due to the dearth of good centre halves, not just in world football. So possible, I don't know. He's a Croatian, he's Croatian international now, Alex. He is 25, but get 2 seasons out of him, sell him for 27.
Yeah.
If we were looking to sell that guy, if he continues to develop the way he's developing, we're getting 8, 9, 10 million for that guy for a signing who was 1.5.
Yeah, and I think similar with Katic. The only reason I think you mentioned Goldson there, all the players that you mentioned have been impressive signings for us. Because there's a bit of a double barrel question there. Who do I think will make the most money? I actually think Goldson will, and it's simply because of his nationality.
Good point. English player tax.
That's the biggest market for us, is to sell to England. Centre halves seem to do well, and for getting big fees when it comes to Scottish, teams signing from players from Scotland. Sorry, tripped over that affair, but that seems to be a position that makes a lot of money, or certainly has over the years, and I think Goldson would snatch it just because he's English. If he keeps impressing, if he does well in Europe, his stock will rise big time down there. Well, it's already quite high, to be honest.
And he's got eyes on him because of Steven Gerrard as well.
Yeah. So he's got, I think that would be the reason for that. But I do believe the likes of Katic, Barisic will make us some money. I'm very excited by Grezda, but as you say, we just don't know how he's going to settle yet. All pretty promising. Who's been the best signing of them so far? There's a question, because the three that have come in to the back four, plus Alan McGregor and Warfield, some people think he started slowly, but he's going to be vital for us over the next couple of years. Just a shame it's not a permanent one yet, but Koulibaly might be.
If we get Koulibaly
there as well,
if we get Koulibaly permanent for a reasonable amount of money, that boy could be absolutely massive. But I think at the moment I'd probably say Shagger, because having him behind him has really helped the two boys in front of him. I think the confidence that he breeds. So I'm going to say him at the moment has been the best so far. Graham Roy asks, do you feel the club is finally going forward, and should we be concerned at the fuck up with the kit deal and sports direct, or is this just a one-off mistake? I don't think it's a mistake. I think it's more trying to extricate yourself from someone who is going to do absolutely everything in their power to make it as difficult as possible for you to do so. And it's a legacy issue. It's a legacy of these disastrous deals that we've had in the past. And unfortunately, you can't just come out of these things as straightforwardly as you would like to do. It is really annoying. If anything like this ever happened again, yes, then you're right. But you would hope that this is a one-off. Are we moving forward? Absolutely, 100%. There's no doubt about it. There's tangible evidence in the Champions League. There's the fact that the money that we've invested this summer, we would be able to make back for a change. You don't think we're going to have to free 15 players and sign 15 players next summer. We have a manager who's said that on the record that he's here for 4 years. It's going to take him 4 years to put us right back on top as the number one club in Scotland. Yes, tickets sold, everything. Rangers are moving in the right direction. I have no doubts whatsoever about that.
Yeah, on and off the field. Added to everything that you've said, and I know there's only been 4 league games so far, so quite a small sample, but Rangers are clearly the youngest average age so far out of all the teams in the league for the players that they've used, which, when you consider the progress that we're making on the pitch, is quite encouraging. Even if the summer consists of us not being able to keep any of the loan players and having to replace them, that would be the best summer we've had in a long time.
Yes, gorgeous.
A long time. Jesus, back to Walter's second spell, really. And yeah, there's clear evidence that things are moving forward. The Sports Direct thing, maybe the club's been a little bit sly with that in terms of, going and getting a good deal from elsewhere, which has forced Sports Direct to match that. And if they've done it kind of behind their back slightly to push this forward, if Sports Direct give us exactly the same as JD were going to give us, and that's who we end up having to use for a year or 2 years or whatever, as long as the club's making good money out of it, it's just the way that it goes, I guess. We could have been looking at another 4 or 5 years of absolutely nothing. Yeah. So that's huge steps forward, regardless of how much it's cost us, regardless of the information not being fully available to the fans. I get the frustrations behind both of those, but just don't forget where we've came from in this regard. There's been significant progress there. There's good reasons to be excited by things on and off the field at Rangers right now. We still have a lot to sort out. We're still in that kind of process, but yes, we're finally seeing some tangible evidence of what's been done, and that's the first time for a long time. So even if you get back to pre-admin, there was a lot of firefighting being done then because money was a problem, and Walter was overperforming with what he was kind of being asked to do. So yeah, for the first time in a long time, things feel as though they're moving forward in a nice direction. So I don't think there's any real arguments against that, if I'm honest.
This is the first Rangers have been financially stable this century, and if you want evidence for that, you just need to go back to the fire sale of 2003 to tell you that it's been that long since Rangers have been financially stable. So it's it is. It's
just thinking about that.
Yeah, but I mean, we were borrowing to pay Paul. We were juggling. We were month to month. All of that from that era. So yes, at least now we know what we're doing, where we're going, and what the plan is. Neo Geo 7. Who do you think is the best bargain signing of the last 30 years? Cost very little for big reward. Alex, I'm going to put a caveat in there and say no free transfers, no Bosmans, because
that
would make it. We had to have paid a fee for them, and I'm going to name you 3. John Brown, 350 grand from Dundee. I don't think anyone could say that the service we got out of him wasn't utterly fabulous. Peter Lovenkrands, 1.5 million, and you just look at the big goals that he scored for us. And Nacho Novo, £400,000. Look at the amount of money he made for us with certain goals for 400 grand. I mean, he got a goal that got us into the Champions League. He got, obviously, Fiorentina. They would be the 3 that I would say made huge impressions for a total spend of 2.2 million.
That's difficult to beat. I was going to say this last 30 years, so would Ian Ferguson fall into that, or was he just before that?
It was just before, but I'll give you him.
Given the service that he gave us over the years.
That's a good one, yeah.
I'm sure Stefan Kloss cost us about 400k, yeah?
700.
700. Kloss done an amazing job for us. I know it wasn't quite the length of service of some that we've mentioned, but when you consider the sort of what he gave us and that what that team gave us in terms of getting back some sort of decent reputation in Europe again, he was probably the best bargain signing of Advocat's time if you take away any free transfers. It's slightly tainted by modern day prices, but considering what we we paid for Brian Laudrup and what we got.
Yes, that's a good point. 2 million. 2.2 million.
It's slightly tainted, as I say, by the modern day prices, but they were starting to ramp up then. We got a bargain, and take away statistics, numbers. It wasn't just about that with Laudrup. What he gave us in terms of just the sheer joy of watching him play, and the memories for those who've seen him in a Rangers shirt. That was worth a million times what we paid for him. Let's be honest.
Correct. It was just a joy and a pleasure to be able to witness him. Stephen Ross, given the way the mainstream media is going and with the rising popularity of podcasts such as Heart and Hand, can you envisage a day when you're given more access to players or invited to attend press conferences? Well, Stephen, to be honest, I think if we asked the club for that, they would give us it. It's just I don't want it. So that is kind of a non-issue at the moment, because if we do that, then we're just the media. Then we are just part of the media. You can get that already. You just need to go online and you just need to go to the club, and you will get interviews with players and you will get the press conferences in full now. So I don't see the need for it, to be honest, and I don't want to be that. That's not who we are. We have a very clear idea of what we do, and I think it's working. So I wouldn't blame the club on this one and say, oh well, they should let you in. I think they would if we asked, but I'm not going to ask because I don't want to do it. So that's just a personal thing. That's not to say other podcasts couldn't, and it's not to say that as the traditional media continues to evaporate, that then we might say, well, actually now there's a gap where this stuff used to exist that isn't there anymore, we will go in and fill it. So I'm not ruling it out forever, but right now, no, I don't want to do it. So
no, it's a tricky one, because I think when people ask this sort of thing, what they are looking for is our level of discussion to be taken to interviews with players or asking questions of the club, because we do it. We have the freedom to do that very differently. The media don't have, and the club certainly don't have. And we talked about you've just done that stuff in the Advocat years. I think people would be hoping, if you imagine taking us back to that time, there's David Edgar sitting with Dick Advocat just going, Bert Connerman, why? We just wouldn't get that. You wouldn't get that freedom to do that if you worked
exactly.
with players. There would be it would be sanitised, it would be edited in certain ways, not out of our control. The discussion wouldn't be as free as we'd hope. What we're doing just now with ex-players and stuff like that, I think is really good. Some of the stuff that's been revealed through that has been amazing. So yeah, I just feel as though you're right in this one. We could approach the club, but then you start to take away a lot of what it is that Heart and Hand offers. And I would say that probably applies to other podcasts and other kind of mediums of this type as well.
Yeah.
It's becoming more popular because fans want that freedom. I don't think clubs are anywhere near ready to allow that to be part of their approach to it as well. Just look at Arsenal TV as a good example for that.
I think as well that it's... I don't ask the club for anything. In terms of these live shows, they came to us, I wouldn't have gone to them. And I'm comfortable in that because it means I'm not reliant on them. And it means that I don't ask them for any favours. And they don't ask me for favours, and that's cool. That's the way I prefer it. I like operating outside the mainstream because it's just more fun and it's more free, and I don't want to be part of the pack. I see us as slightly ahead of the pack and I don't want to get pulled back into it. So that's the reason why not. Not ruling it out forever, but right now, no. Mark Patterson, as the team settles down, would you do an Advocat and strip Tav as captain to allow him to concentrate on his game and give you an option to change right back and give it to Goldson or McGregor, who look more natural leaders? No, I would never strip a player of the captaincy during the season because I don't think it... I think the negative impact on the player is so much that, because it's a public humiliation any way you look at it, that I don't think you gain anything from that. in all honesty. I think that you just shatter a player publicly, and you need enormous strength of character. The reason Amoruso came back from it was because he was Amoruso and he had this almost superhuman level of self-belief. I think a lesser, or someone with lesser self-belief, would struggle badly if you did that. I think we have leaders on the park already. Goldson and McGregor are two of them. And I don't think Steven Gerrard wouldn't drop James Tavernier because he was the captain if he felt that it was going to, he had more chance of winning a match with someone else in that right back position. So me personally, no, I would never do it. I think, I'll be honest here, I think maybe giving it to Tavernier was a mistake because he didn't strike me as a natural captain. Based on last season, I thought Tav would be a good captain, but after he'd been the captain for a while, I thought maybe not. He maybe is one of these guys that needs to concentrate on their own game. But the manager has done it now, and as far as I'm concerned, you live with that.
Yeah, as we've spoken about before, it's difficult to see all the small elements that make a captain. You know, the stuff that he does off the park, even the way that he leads on the pitch. Is he, quite good at getting in someone's ear during a break of play? He had a little word with him. You see him do things, but you just don't. We don't see enough of it to know for certain. And he's just not I suppose the last captain that people seem to like their style of was probably like a Barry Ferguson or David Weir, who were a bit more. In fact, do you know what? David Weir wasn't the most vocal on the pitch,
but he had a presence.
He had a presence.
He had that. That's the thing I think that fans look to. And remember, a lot of us grew up. Rangers captain run was Terry Butcher, Richard Gough. That is, even then Amo. That sets in your mind the idea of what a leader is, and that's why I think Goldson, to me, absolutely. McGregor is naturally, you can see that, but I just don't like goalkeepers as captain because who organises an attacking free kick? What if there's an argument about penalty at the other end? It just practical matters. So I like a centre half because a centre half as well can sit there and see the whole game in front of him. And if he is a leader, should be able to say, you need to do this, you need to do that. I'm sitting here watching this and this is what's happening. So I like a centre back doing it. But as you say, we don't know what James Tavernier's like in the dressing room. Steven Gerrard does, and he thought he saw stuff in him to give him the captaincy, and I trust him. So if he's happy with James Tavernier as captain, who, by the way, is a thoroughly, thoroughly good human being, then I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think that, as I say, I've said this many times before, I think we make a bit too much of it. The captaincy in general, it's a British football thing, seems to be spoken about a lot.
But my argument against that is because of that makes it a thing. Because
it does.
Because it's a thing
to
people, because it matters to people, therefore it matters.
The best teams, the most successful teams, tend to have more than one leader on the pitch anyway.
Correct.
I remember when you're talking about Amoruso there, who was one of my favourite other Rangers players, and a lot of that was his almost David Edgar-esque levels of self-confidence. He was almost as self-confident as you, David.
Almost.
And you're right, when he gets stripped of the captaincy, I remember not long after that, it was one of the games against Celtic, he'd done his usual where he marked something right out of the game, and it was Provan co-commentating on Sky, and he said, Barry Ferguson might be the captain, but we all know who the leader of that Rangers team is. And that was the first time I kind of thought to myself, you need more than just a guy with the armband on doing that sort of thing. And Amoruso was still willing to do it even after everything that happened to him. Tavernier needs players around him able to do that. He was captain of a very, I don't like to slag players' attitude at times.
You can. They earned it.
I think they earned it last season, and he carries the brunt because he had the armband on. But he could have been the greatest leader on the planet, and it wouldn't have made much of a difference in some of those games last season. So yes, you need guys who can take that self-responsibility anyway. If you've got a team of players who are saying, "Well, my captain never helped me," then you've not got a good team. No. It's really that simple. So I understand the focus on it. As I say, like it's one of those things in British football. I just think that from a personal point of view, I don't really, I don't know enough, and in truth, I don't mind if Tavernier's one wearing the armband, but Goldson, McGregor and Arfield are the ones doing the most leadership in the pitch. It's, as long as someone's doing it, it really doesn't matter.
This question actually applies to both of us, strangely enough, Alex. It's from RM, and he says, you've mentioned a few times that you don't have a driving licence. Is there a reason you never learned, and do you feel it's a hindrance to you as an older bear? Yeah, I mean, there are a few reasons for it. Look, the first thing, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I don't think you need to be. My dad's sister, obviously my auntie, and her husband and their 2 children died in a car accident when I was 9. So that's, clearly left a mark. It would be silly to say that it didn't. It affected me hugely as a child. So there's that. Then, from about the age of 15, I was a really heavy drinker. I was. And I didn't trust myself not to drink and drive. And I think, my opinion of drink drivers is not very high for obvious reasons. So I didn't trust myself when I was drunk not to do it. And genuinely, therefore, I thought it was safer never to learn. And also, I was drunk an awful lot, so learning would have been difficult. Since I got sober, I've thought about it, and I've kind of half-arsed tried at it, but I don't know if there's now just a self-conscious thing with me. And yes, it is a pain in the arse at times. I mean, I'm used to public transport because it's all I've ever known, but it would be a lot easier to just jump in a car and head somewhere, absolutely. But I don't know if now I'm just a wee bit too self-conscious about it. And at this point, I'm never say never, but I probably wouldn't bet on me learning to drive. Alex?
A few reasons for me. First, financial, really. The times that I did do lessons where I, got some money together and did that, I hated it. I absolutely hated being behind the wheel.
Yeah, I get that.
To the extent where I was paying for lessons as I was going along the first time, and then I left it for a few years, went back to it. And the second time I paid for a block, and I hated it so much that I didn't take half the lessons in the block. I just didn't bother. Didn't get my money back for that either. Just didn't like it at all. And lastly, and this is going to sound a bit woes me, but there's a truth behind this. My concentration levels and my ability to fall asleep at any point, just for a wee 10 second, 10, 20 seconds of just because I don't sleep very well at night. So during the day, if I'm doing something monotonous, you can guarantee my eyes will go. I would not be a safe driver, and there are more than enough unsafe drivers on the road without me adding to that. All of this absolutely frustrates the life out of the girlfriend who does drive, and she learned how to drive quite late by modern kind of standards. But so she gets a bit annoyed by that, a wee bit kind of frustrated that I seem to be quite resistant to it. But I'm genuinely convinced that would be a danger on the road. So I would rather just rely on public transport. And do you know what else? See, if I knew how to drive, I have piled on weight ridiculously bad over the last couple of years. If I wasn't doing the amount of walking that I do, and had been able to drive everywhere, I'd be huge by now.
that is an advantage of it.
That's another issue.
If you walk as much as I do, I mean, my calves look great, and I've got a dynamite arse. And no, I do. I've got a really nice arse, and it would be, I'd be reluctant to lose them. This is a good one to finish up on. It's from Aidan Wiley. He says, should every signing be taken on the founder's trail when joining the club? Since Walter's departure, too many players have worn the shirt but haven't understood what it truly means to represent Rangers. Hence, continuous heavy Old Firm defeats, a lack of silverware in recent years, and few winners leaders. Well, I think that we've had a lot of players who just weren't up to it. The shirt was too big for them. It's as simple as that, and nothing would have changed that. They were overawed because they knew in their heart that I don't belong here, and because of the strange circumstances Rangers found themselves in, they happened to have the shirt, but they never truly believed that they should be in it, and we didn't truly believe they should be in it, and we were all right. So there's that. I don't think it would hurt at all. I mean, it's a few hours, and I know for a fact that the players are shown when they sign a video about Rangers and the history of the club. So it is important to the club to get that across to them, that they are, and it's certainly, you've heard the manager speak, that it's important to him to get that stuff across to them. So no, I would have absolutely no problem at all with this. And do you know the best thing about this current squad? I think they'd enjoy it.
that's where this starts to, yes, I think a lot of this current squad would enjoy it. I think that the slight fall down here that fans do, and I do this myself, every football fan I think does this, if you haven't been a professional footballer, it's very difficult to imagine how a professional footballer thinks. Because, when I play football or when I go to watch football, the emotions there's some form of enjoyment. You're paying for the privilege of making yourself look like an idiot for 90 minutes if you play amateur football and all that sort of stuff. So it's a completely different thing to the life of a professional footballer. And I would imagine this squad, as you say, it feels a bit different. I'd imagine some of their previous squads, if you tried to take them somewhere for 3 hours, 2 hours 59 of that would have been spent on their phone.
Agreed.
So, and that's just, that's the way that it is. It's like, if someone tried to get me to go and watch, I don't know, 3 hours of, oh God, there's many subjects I really don't care about. That might have enriched my life if I've spent any time on them, but I just never will. So, I can imagine what that's like. And as I say, for a pro footballer, you can see it in media duties, you can see it in all of that. If you started to make that feel like something they had to do rather than something that they wanted to do, it becomes a bit of a difficult sell. I don't think it would have made any difference to on-field performances either, personally. You either have that self-pride or you don't. I don't think Andy Halliday is probably stauncher and more of a blue nose than I'll ever be, but it doesn't mean that he was able to, he wasn't able to draw upon some sort of magic reserve to give the great performances in games where we needed it. Because I like Halliday. He's certainly this season proven to be a bit of an asset so far, but we know he's of limited ability, right? I mean, we know that. I don't think it would have made a difference to certain performances or results. It would be nice. I don't think, as you say, it probably wouldn't do any harm, but I would rather it was more of less of a requirement and more of something that the club found a way to almost convince the players that they want to find out a bit more about this sort of thing. I'm just not entirely convinced the psychology of a modern day professional footballer is really affected by these sort of things as much as we wish it would be.
I've got one more which I'll wrap up on and you'll hear why in a minute, but before we do, just a few plugs. I'll just do one for my friend Ian McCall here. If you haven't been on the Founders Trail, and you can go, obviously, if you're in Scotland, please do. You will love it. It's such a wonderful day. founderstrail.co.uk. Learn all about the history of our club and you'll be amazed. Stories of Bill Struth, stories of the four lads who had a dream, and stories of Buffalo Bill. And it really takes your breath away just how amazing the origins of our club are. Incidentally, someone asked later in the thread, why has it changed from 1873 to 1872? That's because the lads doing the Founders Trail, when in their research, found lots of newspaper references to Rangers being formed in 1872, contemporaneous reports, so that's why it has been discovered clearly and unequivocally that Rangers were formed in 1872, so that's the reason for it. The Heart and Hand shop, you've asked for it, it's now open. heartandhand.co.uk, go to shop and you will find loads of tat. You want t-shirts, hoodies, mugs, keyrings, all that shite. Useless, absolutely useless shite, but staunch useless shite. Go and have a look at it. heartandhand.co.uk. Merchandise, it's in a section marked shop. There's also loads of great content on that site, loads of blogs and whatnot. Please go along and visit. And of course, our usual shout for Patreon, that's where these questions came from. There's actually going to be a bonus show on Patreon with where Alex and I are going to do more questions. And you get usually 4 shows per day. It keeps you going through the international break. It's just $1.99 a month. I mean, I'm giving this stuff away here. Please go and have a look at it. Patreon.com/heart and hand. Alex, thank you very much for coming. And there was something you wanted to talk about today.
Yes. Today, as we're recording this on the Monday, is National Suicide Prevention Day. For those of you who have listened to ourselves through Patreon, you'll know that we've done the mental health awareness pod, and I myself have tried to kind of do a couple of podcasts and some articles on certain things as well related to mental health, and the target audience that we have, which is predominantly white males of a certain age, let's be honest. So yes, one of those things, I just wanted to bring that up today. You never know what sort of issues people are having when they're listening. It can be yourself, it can be someone you know, if you've got any concerns. It's one of those days. If I'm honest, these things sometimes feel a bit commercialised when they talk about awareness days or awareness weeks or whatever, but they're still required. They're clearly still required. And there's plenty of help out there, and that even includes ourselves. If you're part of the Heart and Hand family, if you're part of the Rangers family, never feel as though you're alone in that respect, because you can even just tweet me at Strider80, send me a direct message. You can do that to David. You can even just ourselves, if you just need someone to talk to or whatever it might be. For my podcast, it's Making Strides on Patreon, but everything's free on there. There is an option to subscribe, but at the moment everything's free, so you don't have to do that. It's just because of what day it is, I just thought it was worth mentioning, and also worth mentioning that, as part of the Rangers family, and hell, even if you're not, we are here to listen. Absolutely, you don't need to just listen to us.
Absolutely, and it's a great thing Alex is doing. Patreon.com/Making Strides. As you say, it's free, but if you've got a couple of quid you can donate to it, please do so. But I think it's vital for you to realise that we've helped and been helped by other members of the Rangers family. Well, neither me nor Alex are too proud to admit that. And if you just want to talk about something, there's pressure, stuff going on in your life that you don't want to talk to, because I know what it's like when you've got people around you and you don't really want to talk to them. Talk to us. You kind of know us anyway. Alex is on Twitter at Strider80. I am David at heartandhand.co.uk. Chat to us, anything at all. If you're not feeling good, drink, whatever, drugs, let me know. I've been there. And it's the old thing about, when you're in a hole, if you've got somebody who knows the way out of it, that can be pretty effective. Just like to thank my guest today. He was wonderful, Mr. Alex Staff.
Thank you, David. Always a pleasure.
Thank our executive producers in London, Mr. Mightley and Paul Myers. And then this last question comes from Graham, and he says, will you finish up with one of your inspirational speeches, please? And I don't do them to order, and it's never a conscious thing. I never sit down and say, right, what will I say on this? I never do that for any podcast, incidentally. It's just that it comes from the heart. The reason that it does is because I am so proud. There is so much joy in what we do at Heart and Hand, and the growth not only of our little community on Heart and Hand, it's 3,500 strong now. It's because it comes from something so good and so pure, and that is Rangers FC. It comes from something that represents dignity, and it comes from something that represents honour, and it comes from something that represents heart and belief. And it's most gratifying when I talk to other people, because I know instantly that they feel that, and I know instantly that they have that connection, and it binds us across continents and across generations and across decades. And I think that was why the last 6 years were so painful, because we were being represented by people who did not get that, who did not understand what we are, who were not part of our community and didn't want to be, because anyone can join our community. It doesn't matter your background, it doesn't matter where you're from. It only matters that you get it, that you feel it, because that's the key part, that you feel it. This is not always a rational thing. This is not always something you can organise your thoughts around. It's something that you feel in your heart every single day. And to some people, they'll hear that and they'll think that's ludicrous. You're just talking about a football team. But that's okay. They don't get it. They don't need to. It's the people who do get it. And like me, like Alex, like everyone listening, if you do get it, if you feel that, then Rangers will be part of your life from the second you commence breathing to the second you stop. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I love this football club. I love every single person who subscribes to what that football club represents. It will always be the number one thing in my life. And look, I've had wives ask me about that, and I've told them the truth. because it's as simple as just 4 words and they never change. Rangers till I die. Love you all. Speak to you again soon. Cheers. Bye.